All right, everybody, welcome to Malvern Books. Thank you all for coming out to tonight's event, which is called Chaps and Broads. And that this whole event really, and that wonderful name are courtesy one of our readers tonight and Malvern coworker Julie Poole. So let's give Julie a round of applause. So last minute, I offered to just come up here and explain what chapbooks and broadsides are in case people don't know. We'll start with broadsides. A broadside is it's also called a broadsheet. It's a printing term, and it just means essentially a poster or a flyer. It's something that's printed just on one side on a single, usually large sheet of paper. Broadsides used to be used in sort of like a social context, a historical context. For example, the first printing of the Declaration of Independence is on a broadside, and then it's just smack it on the wall, we're declaring our independence. So as printing presses and all of these different things, technology advances, broadsides kind of lost their function a little bit that way. But a wanted poster would be a modern or a contemporary use of it. The other contemporary use of it, for the most part, is to present usually a single poem with some sort of accompanying visual. And so an example would be, sorry, it's mine. It's for sale over there on the table with all of the other lovely broadsides and chapbooks. So this is a single, very short poem that I wrote, and I'm lucky enough to be friends with an incredibly talented printmaker who made both of the broadsides that I have at no cost to me because she's amazing. But anyway, so there's lots of different things that you can do, in terms of what you're actually printing there. So that's a broadside. A chapbook is just a pamphlet. It's a small book, usually handmade. You can go, this is our reader tonight, Vanessa. Her chapbook is also over there on the table. You can see that this one's got like an interesting binding. The thing that's cool about chapbooks for poets is they're relatively easy to make and relatively cheap to make if you go the cheap route. For example, the chapbooks that I have over there on the table, I made them all myself at home with just a regular old printer. And then Julie has a really cool thing available for sale over there. That's like, it's a cross between a broadside and a chapbook because it's printed on both sides. And there, as you can see, are beautiful visuals. So you're getting that piece of art as well as the text. But then you can fold it up and it's got a traditional cover and all that kind of stuff. So without further ado, Chandra is going to actually host, so I'll see you later.
About 5 minutes ago, Stephanie came up to me and asked if I had like an introduction for Chaps and Broads, and I was like, sort of. And she's like, well, can I tell you like the history of Chaps and Broads? and then you can just say it all, and I'm really glad I told her no. Another round of applause for Professor Stephanie. Awesome. So our first broad is Claire Bowman. Claire is a poet from Missouri. She earned a BA in English from Truman State University and an MFA in poetry from the Michener Center for Writers. Her chapbook, Dear Creatures, was published by Sutra Press in the fall of 2017. Her work can be found in Deluge, PANK, Narrative Magazine, and elsewhere. Please welcome Claire.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Julie Poole, for putting this together. This is such a fun and unique little night, and there's no place to host it but Malvern. This is the perfect space for us, and I hope that these poems do it justice. This is my little chapbook. It's called Dear Creatures, and if you're poets out there looking for a place for your work, I really love this press. It's brand spanking new. It's a young guy named Sam, and he's really invested in the scientific and the religious, which is kind of the Venn diagram that I find a lot of my poems inhabiting. So that's where these poems are coming from. And the first one is called A Serious Desert. An essential part of actualization is recognizing your spine, its exact longitudes and latitudes, its corresponding weaknesses where the algae grows. All over the planet, people try to end pain. Striptease, acupuncture, bee stings, sensory deprivation, kombucha. I have always been soothed by unpasteurized goat's milk. Every now and then, LSD. But the thing about consciousness is, well, it has tributaries full of water moccasins. Suddenly, you're bitten, and the antidote is, as always, more venom. Low down on the tarot spectrum, the devil takes all the blame for people acting like meatheads. If a wise man was present at my birth, he must have gifted me with mirrors. And I've never liked the structure of my bones, their heathenish predilections, their aquatic ferns. Now they migrate, that is the technical term, within my body, searching for water. But I've divined the tea leaves, and the cup says, dry, whole moon cycles of it. Somewhere, oceans lick. A year counts itself down in the daily routine of a witch. There's a hole in my bucket, God help me. This poem is titled Diglacia. God made me with a pen. Curvaceous fruit, dark blue blossom, indecipherable script. Water is material, ink is spirit. I imbibe. Pom-poms are attached to a thread, just like worship, just like spine, lantern, cuneiform. The image of my God is zoomorphic. Every waterlogged island of my soul speaks a different tongue. There will never be enough lapis lazuli in the earth to accommodate our rambling regurgitations of bodhi. There never was. We can cheat and make our God into a person, a man even. There is nothing left to do now but laugh. I laugh at Gilgamesh and his boyish ego. I laugh at the bookkeeping of the ancients. Numbers are laughter, carnage, absurd. I'll never learn. Somehow I've gotten by with no dialect, no traceable history but a vague Viking pride. How we mythologize the violence of our ancestors. How we grieve the loss of something that comes in cycles. Idiots, the circle has no death. I haven't read this poem in a while. I wrote it quite a long time ago, and I think it's kind of silly, but I think it's also good to have an opportunity to just air it out a little bit and see what happens. Maybe it's different than I remember it. It's called Pain Overlap Theory. Yes, I'm obsessed with the god of floating and the duke of blurred vision. I spend hours believing myself dead, full of undulating dread, pith fears trickling through me like a water instrument. Every now and then, I bend over and touch a million feelings writhing on the floor. Yes, it's the best grief. Something passes over me like the Holy Spirit over lamb's blood, smeared on the doorway, or maybe it is wine smeared across a forehead. Something passes over me, some cosmic radiation, and nothing happens. Nothing but a barrel of neuroimages shedding light on the seat of suffering. Little cross sections of the brain like nebulas trapped inside of walnuts. I am also trapped inside of a walnut, sipping from an empty mug. I can see the depth of our sore chasm. I can hear what's scratching there. This poem kind of calls back to the cover a little bit, and the creatureliness of the book. It's not necessarily about, animals or the environment, but I think there's like the ghost of that in all of these poems. Just like there's always, the ghost of your mother and everything that you write. So this particular poem is titled "Translucent Misnomers Float the Current." For years I've wondered who walks the wooden floors in the hallways of my mother's house in the future. What hovers darkly over the written word that voices can't tease out? It's warm, and for some reason I feel profound. Regret soaks the walls and erases every painting of seashells forged out of emptiness. Suddenly I open my mouth and forget what I care about. Being unhappy is reckless, and moonlight doesn't rise or set, it only desires. To be in the lake, naked again, saddled by invisible guilts. To be something that conducts energy. To be a brainless net of nerves, riding the waves at night toward the destiny of genetic multiplication. Old memory crawls behind the piano to die. Fields in my vein open and let out their birds, rotating fire. The cave holds every necessary instrument to love yourself. Every bell trailing tentacles toward the coast. Thanks again, everybody, for coming tonight. Thank you, Malvern, for hosting, and Julie for putting this little shindig together. This is my last poem. It's called The Avesta, and it's the last poem in the book. The Avesta. So death comes woolly and electric, washing the boy of his memories, repossessing them for the junkyard of the autonomous psyche, a temple basement gilled with books. Cloud after cloud, like eyelids, tick in torque, currents of low voltage waves. All oblations noodle through the flood. Anonymity covers my mind with its dark hood. Here is a spell to fight this new disease. Wear 72 threads and slash your wrists. Recite the gurgling in darkness. Ganglion, pentacle, mitochondria, slaw, crustacean, heliotrope, plastic, epidermis, cytoplast, slur, perigee, tectonic, ectoplasm, spill. What is the word for an oyster fresh from the sea? Thanks, everybody.